I want to just extend a thank you to all of our candidates. It is so important that we have good candidates, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being a candidate, especially this cycle. People are concerned, right? Everyone, rightfully after what happened with Melissa Hortman, are kind of devastated and tender. And so thank you for putting yourselves out there, all right? Really appreciate it. So now I want to introduce Linda Freeman. She's a very active member of Canaba County DFL. Linda moderated several candidate forums while she was active with the League of Women Voters. And please welcome Linda.
So first we're going to start with just an introductory statement. And I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. And then after that, the questions, I'm going to jumble you guys up so there isn't always the first person and whatever. All right. So go ahead and start with Emanuel and give your introductory statement.
How long do we have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes for your introduction. Yeah?
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Emanuel. It's no secret that we live in crazy times I never thought I'd have to face. But in the midst of it all, we're all choosing to stand up for our neighbors, to stand up in the streets and protest, and to stand up for our democracy by defeating MAGA in free and fair elections. But we in the 8th District also have a unique opportunity to stand up and make Congress what it's meant to be, the voice of the people. What is it that we the people are asking for? This is certainly not the authoritarianism. We're asking for a living wage, health care, education, an end to genocide, and a real democracy. Medicare for all, universal college, an end to arming the genocide of the Palestinians, universal college, and a move to a public system of campaign finance where no one person in our democracy has more power than any other person based on their economic standing, are all things that I vow to support. We're the Democratic Farm Labor Party, and I feel very strongly about living up to our name. I chose to run for Congress due to the results of the last presidential election, but I've begun to develop a positive vision along the way. I was born and raised on Long Island, New York, graduated from Carleton College in 2021, and have lived and worked on the Boys Fort Reservation at Lake Vermilion for most of my adult life. It's this community at Boys Fort that when I need it most has given me life. And it's this vision that I have of this greater community that's the lifeblood of my campaign. And I think creating a government that ensures that all of its members have health care, education, a living wage, and an equal say in democracy will be the first big step in making my vision a reality.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cyle. I want to say thank you for the groups for organizing and bringing this together. I've gotten used to speaking at picnic shelters and libraries. This is a little bit of a step up and can show what some good organizing can do. I'm running for Congress because people that are doing everything right are being left behind. And this is going on for everybody. Working class people, especially young working class people, are being crushed. Housing prices are unattainable. Healthcare is unaffordable. Childcare is expensive. Prices are rising. And now a college education comes with a lifetime worth of debt. And I've come to find out that this isn't an accident, it's intentional. I've seen it firsthand. It's the executive boardroom against the average person. It's the shareholders against the worker, and it's short-term profits over long-term sustainability. And so my goal in Congress is to rebalance this, to increase collective bargaining rights, to enhance consumer protections, to end anti-competitive corporate behavior, and to work for the people. And deciding to run wasn't an easy decision for me. I'm not your typical candidate. I'm not already well known throughout the district. As Dan said, I'm not independently wealthy. And other things that make it hard to run is I have 2 young daughters at home. I have a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old. It's hard to be away, but they also motivate me to run. My wife is a working professional, and I also have a career that I've been proud of, that I've built up. But I'm running because I view this as an extension of service. I grew up living with my grandparents who relied on things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and supplemental nutrition assistance. I had a good public education and free school lunch, so I could dream big when in school and didn't have to worry about where my next meal came from. And so these programs didn't make me dependent. I worked in school. Instead, they made me possible.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm JP McBride, and I'm running because I watch the news every night. I see a country and a president that's spiraling out of control, and I see a Democratic opposition that has nothing more to offer than strongly worded letters and outrage. And we are in perilous times. We may be in the last waning years of our democracy. And I see Donald Trump as somebody who is, I see that a lot of people on the left like to dismiss him as an idiot or somebody senile and but I've studied dictatorships. What he's doing makes sense. What he's doing, sending troops into the cities, conducting illegal foreign strikes in the Caribbean. This makes sense. It makes sense not as a person who is trying to win over the American heart, but somebody who is trying to create an American security state that is complicit in his crimes and will intervene in our elections to continue his presidency in defiance of the Constitution. 5 years ago, on January 6th, Donald Trump attempted to usurp the Constitution of the United States and overturn a free and fair election. When he does that again, I want to be there defending our nation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Trina Swanson. I come from Hermantown. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and giving us the opportunity to engage with all of you and share how we feel about the issues. I would like to take the first 2 minutes, though, to tell you about myself and where I came from, because I think that will tell you the type of leader that I will be in the House of Representatives. So growing up in Hermantown, I came from a very middle-class family. My mom was a nurse and my dad was a carpenter and then later worked at the paper mill. And they were in union jobs until my dad got to the paper mill, and then they voted against it. And I saw what that meant. But I saw the good side of the unions and how that promoted a living wage and allowed them to raise us as a family and give us a future that we wanted. But it was a struggle. I remember our power being shut off because we didn't have the money to pay the bills. I remember my dad getting injured and my mom driving him to a job site 2 hours away so that he could work and put food on our table. And they continued to support us so that I was able to go to university at St. Thomas and law school at William Mitchell and go after my dreams. And that was my dream since I was 6. I wanted to be a lawyer. And my family was able to do that at that time. The middle class meant something. You could still raise a family. You could still support them and get to where you needed to go. And so when I was 18, I started working for the federal government. I worked as a file clerk at the bankruptcy court, had that job throughout college and law school, and then after law school, I started working for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. I owed $170,000 in debt for my student loans, which is crazy. But that gave me an opportunity to start this career and this path working on behalf of the American people. And I spent 25 years in that job fighting for our democracy, fighting for what was right, being that beacon of light for those most persecuted around the world while upholding our national security here at home. And so now, when DOJ came in and gave me that opportunity to retire, I took it, and I'm fighting back. And I'm here for all of you now so that you can have a representative that engages, that gets out from behind his phone, that shows up in a room and talks to you, even though if he might not agree with you. I should say she, because it's going to be a she soon. So I'm here for all of you to be that representative that's finally here to listen and represent CD8.
Bonjour, Dinaway Maganaduk. Hello, relatives. My name is Debra Topping. I come from Fond du Lac Reservation up there by Black Bear. Everybody usually knows all the casinos, right? So I have decided to run because obviously we have seen what happens when I haven't ran. Right? So I wanted to say though that I have stood against the pipeline. I have protected our water, our wild rice, our environment, our air. So this isn't just for me or mine. This is all of Minnesota, right? So that's why I've been to jail, I've been roughed up by cops, I didn't realize that I was that tough, but got it going on. I want to make sure that there is life for our future, that there is respect for our relatives, and our relatives, all of our relatives, you know, the swimmers, the flyers, the worms, the seeds, they all need us. So, I am here, and let's do this.
Thank you. And now we'll go to our first question that we have from community members. And the first question, we will start with Trina. And it was submitted by Eric Curran Bachman from Pine City. If you win, how do you plan to make Congress effective when they are dealing with a president that doesn't inform or consult members as he should?
Well, first, I think we'll sweep the midterms. So I think we'll have more balance now coming into our government and our Congress. And that will allow us to hold the president and the Republican Party accountable. So he needs to be held accountable. They all need to be held accountable for the decisions that they're making every day that are illegal. We need representatives that are willing to stand up to them every single day. And I know it's exhausting, right? I'm watching the same news that you're all watching every single day. And being able to stand up every day and say, this is wrong, is what needs to happen. So we can't just post on Facebook that we don't like something or that we have a problem with picking a sitting president out of a sovereign nation. We actually have to come together as a party and have a unified voice. And that also means bringing communities into it. So we need all of you to stand up and join us in that voice in Congress and unify as a United States and actually stand up for what we believe in and the country that we want to be and the people that we want to be. Starting with us being able to take over that Congress, the House, being able to make real change, pass laws, and also hold the Supreme Court accountable, let's be honest. Because you can have laws that are passed, but you actually have to have a Supreme Court that upholds the Constitution as well. And we need an ethical Supreme Court. So that also means ensuring that they're not taking gifts, money, awards, trips, whatever they're taking from the private citizens of this country when they're in really one of the most, if not most, powerful positions in ensuring that we're upholding our Constitution and the future of our democracy. So I will be the voice. I will be the one to stand up. I will be the one to shout out when something is wrong, even if it's hard, even if that pushback comes from the other party, even if they're bullies, which we all know they are. I'm not afraid of that. Honestly, I've worked my entire career with bullies, with people that think they know better at all times. And it takes a voice in fighting for what's right every single day.
Thank you. And have you passed the mic to Deborah?
I seem to talk better when I'm standing up, so hopefully y'all don't mind. The question again, please?
And I can read the question again. It's, if you win, how do you plan to make Congress effective when they are dealing with a president that doesn't inform or consult members as he should?
Wow. I know I have a strong voice. I know I have a lot of people, a lot of ancestors behind me to do the right thing. I prefer to have more women, of course, because we know and we understand. There is, when we need to do this, we need to do it, of course, always together. But as I've looked at the Congress, I see all the women who are standing up against such atrocities. So when I am in there, I will just be joining one of the crew, right? Making sure that we have a place for our future. Miigwech.
Hand the mic down to Emanuel.
Thank you. So when I was a kid in school and I read the social studies books, typically what they were talking about wasn't, oh, you know, how was this person able to get these laws passed and be effective? No, it's about movements. It's about power, and that's what really will make a difference in the long term. You know, so probably the most effective thing that I will do in Congress is do what I'm doing with you guys now, talking to you, try to influence you. And that's what I'll be doing with the American people, in hopes that they will, come 2028, elect a new president. So that will be my strategy. And because we can't do anything, I mean, not that we can't do anything, but we can't be effective really unless we have a supermajority or a different president. So I want to be a part of history and put things in the right direction by using my voice to get a new person in the White House.
And you can give it to Kyle. Thank you.
So I would make Congress effective in this situation that we're facing by being aggressive with investigations, aggressive with Congress's subpoena power, and aggressive with transparency. Right now, we're seeing an administration that thinks it can bully its way to the top, and I've found out that we're stronger when we work together. When you become a bully, it's because you can't outwit your opponent, so you want to try to beat them up with force. And so Democrats are going to win. We're going to organize, and we're going to use our power in Congress to make sure that things are being set straight. I also don't want to get over-focused on just investigating Trump. I think that happened in his last term, and we need to also focus on what our own policies are, what our own action items are, and bringing those forward.
I think, according to the Constitution, Congress is in Article 1. Congress should constitutionally be the strongest of the branches of government. I think that, as a congressman, I will ask to create a legislative equivalent to the U.S. Marshal Service. Congress's investigative power will not work if the president has the power to just say no, to just tell his subordinates not to appear before Congress, or to show up and shout insults and speak lies and refuse to deal with any sort of actual legal proceeding. Congress needs power, and it needs direct power from a security force. We can't trust the government, we cannot trust Donald Trump to faithfully execute the laws. We need a legislative that can do that itself. Thank you.
You can give the mic to Cyle. Will be the first person to respond. And the next question is from Dan Lynon from Chisago City. How can good paying jobs be found in northern Minnesota without threatening the environment?
So a huge thing that I've seen in my time is businesses working with their communities. And I worked for a while for a manufacturer. That manufacturing company would partner with their local schools in trades. They donate products, and those schools then had the opportunity to practice their trades in their schools. And that's not really something my school was able to do. And so I see increased partnership with communities and businesses, increased access to education of all types. We're just not talking about a 4-year college degree here. We're talking about local access to trades and trade jobs, trades in high school. And there are tons of industries in our Northland. The tourist industry is very popular and it's booming. And right now we hear a lot of concerns about bringing different types of mining to the district. And there's a big argument from Pete Stauber about the jobs that those will bring. And right now, those jobs don't exist, these mines don't exist, and instead, these communities are thriving off of other areas that we just need to improve. Small businesses, we need to help our small businesses, give them access to grants, allow them to pay living wages to their employees, and so small businesses don't have to compete against the big box stores.
And Trina will be next.
Thank you. So I think it really is a two-part. One is preparing the workforce so that we have an educated workforce that can take on jobs and take on these new investments that are going to come into Minnesota and be an integral part of these companies being successful because they have the workforce here to do it. So that does start with education. That starts with having different paths for different students and allowing kids to go after what they want and what their dreams are, and making affordable secondary education in this country and having a strong path for those to go into trades. I think we have pushed an idea of kids having to get a 4-year degree for too long, and so we need to promote our trades more and give them a path to do that and have paid internships. So then we have a workforce that is ready to take on these jobs, and that will also mean a strong union within these jobs. And so if we have a strong collective bargaining agreements and unions, that will help with the stability of the market and the jobs that we can bring in here. But it also is the companies, right? We need to bring the companies into the state so that they want to invest in Minnesota. They want to bring their money here, pick up our talent, give them jobs, and be successful. And that means relying on our experts. So we have to balance our need to have jobs and a strong economy with protecting our environment. And so we have to rely on these agencies that are here to look into the effects of a certain business like mining and make sure that it can be done safely. And if it can be done safely, then we move forward. But we have a lot of experts. We have a lot of agencies that are tasked with doing just that and looking into different industries and making sure that they're done responsibly. And so we need to look to those experts and rely on our processes and then come to decisions on if we can have a particular business come in or a particular industry and still protect our environment and the land that we all love.
Thank you, JP.
Congressional District 8 has a very diverse economy. We have farming down south, we have mining up north, and we have tourism in the northeast. all of these industries have been disrupted by Donald Trump's disastrous trade war. In particular, the farming communities down here have been suffering from the loss of the Chinese markets. One of my first priorities would be to repair relations with China and other countries so that we can get our farmers actually growing food and shipping it out once again. I also would like to support industrial development in the Iron Range. Lately, the iron industry has been moving away from coal-powered smelting toward, it's called green steel. It basically uses hydrogen to directly reduce iron into steel, alleviating the need for coal in the steelmaking process. And throughout our history, we've traditionally shipped iron ore off to other states because that's where the coal was. We shipped it off to Pittsburgh because Pennsylvania has coal. But now with the Great Transition, we have an opportunity to move the industry back towards northern Minnesota and cut the other states out of the loop. And we could do that with sustained federal investment in northern Minnesota.
Debra.
So the question is?
The question is, how can good paying jobs be found in northern Minnesota without threatening the environment?
Well, we have a lot of interns, we have a lot of on-the-job training. And with that, I'm not only talking about like on-the-job training, but also we need to get back to the basics of the respect for the land. And so when the community has to take care of the land, then they're more apt to take care of the land. Funny how that works. And how do we do that? How do we do that? That's the biggest question, right? How do we pay everybody good, livable wages to be able to do this? We need to take care of what's in our own backyard first. We have a lot of smart people, not only in this room, but in northern Minnesota, in all of Minnesota, right? So this is something that we can collectively think about how we want to be able to do this. How can we? If I don't have the solution, I'm sure somebody out here does. And that's what it's all about, is the transparency to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Emanuel?
So I think it's pretty clear that at the heart of Dan's question is the issue of mining. Some of the most important people in my campaign team are miners. And it's the living they made in the mining industry that's afforded them to be able to buy boats, buy motors, to buy the big trucks that they use to go out into nature and enjoy the lake and enjoy the backwoods and everything the outdoors has to offer. And it's these very people that understand that the minerals in the ground and the rocks in the earth and the water in the lake and the leaves on the trees are all part of the same environment. And I think they understand that we can have mining jobs be an essential part of our economy while also protecting the environment. And to be clear, copper nickel mines are not part of that equation. What is part of that equation is making sure that the mega rich who own the mines clean up their mess and get the taconite tailings out of the water. Because the nonpartisan board, I believe called the PCA, made clear through a study that the mining companies can still be profitable and clean up their mess at the same time. Thank you.
We're going to start with Debra again, for number one. And our next question, I didn't anticipate the one mic thing. So our next question is from Becky Pancake from Mora, and she wants to know, and it's a two-part question. So, what is your plan to combat the rising costs of healthcare and the likely closing of rural hospitals, and do you support universal healthcare for all?
All right, first of all, yes, I do support universal healthcare for all. It seems awfully silly to me to be able to have your neighbor get the best care when you're wishing you did. So let's just make it even across the table. The rising cost of healthcare. Everybody has seen pharmaceutical companies, everybody has seen their local hospitals in the bigger cities get bigger. I've seen Duluth, there is St. Mary's Hospital has, wow. It's a huge, big, yeah. And so if they spent, the healthcare people, the pharmaceuticals, if they were able to spend half that money that they spend on such silly things, we would be able to afford such. So, simple as that, I feel. Thank you.
And Emanuel.
Yes, I absolutely support Medicare for all. It's one of the most basic things that pretty much every other developed country has. I've talked to doctors, to experts, and the people in the media try to make you think, there's this whole wonky thing where it can't work. No, it's nonsense. People that are doctors, obviously, it's not just the doctors that know about this, but who I've spoken with have made very clear that this would be by far the best system. And we have all the money in the world for it.
Cyle.
Thank you.
I support universal health care. The biggest question is, how do you fund it? It's not free health care. It has to be funded. We have to pay our doctors. We have to build our hospitals. And so right now, about a third of our tax base is already going towards health care through Medicare, Medicaid, etc. And what we need to do is create a payroll tax where your employer pays part of the burden. It's a progressive tax where people on the lower end pay a lower share, people on the higher end pay a larger percentage of the money that they make at the top. And we also need to go after wealth where it's at. It's just beyond raising a payroll tax. It's beyond just an income tax. Instead, we need to target where wealth is being rewarded for wealth's sake right now. We need to tax stock buybacks, capital gains, and right now the system is rigged. And wealth can just compound on top of wealth, and Congress has not been able to go after it. And so with a majority in Congress, we can go after that. We can fund our health care. And the issue of rural hospitals is really important as well. And our rural hospitals are closing. I grew up in a town of about 24,000 people, and its birthing center is closing. And that's where I was born. The best man at my wedding was born. My cousins from 20 miles away were born. I don't know what that community is going to do going forward. And We can do this by looking at existing bills, working together. In 1997, there was a healthcare rural access bill that was passed that put restrictions on the rural hospitals. But now our communities are changing, our healthcare systems are changing, and we need to adjust those simple laws that are already on the books.
Thank you. JP?
I support universal health care. I support Medicare for all, and I think that you should be able to sign up for Medicare at the point of service, at the doctor's office, at the hospital. I think that even beyond the actual monetary cost of health care to the individual is the administrative burden. That too much of our health care system is designed around the competence of seniors. That I have had a young friend that died just before his 30th birthday, and it was a preventable illness. And I think about 20-year-old men, and like, people shouldn't be obsessing about healthcare in their early years. That we need healthcare that's there for young men that jump off of things to impress their friends. Like, we can't expect the youth to change to be mature adults until they get there. And I know that there's a lot of, I work at Essentia, and the summer before last, one of my jobs was to stuff envelopes to tell our customers that we were canceling their appointments because we couldn't reach a deal with United Health Group. And just hour after hour, I sat in a cubicle folding the papers and stuffing them in envelopes, and I thought, I don't need to do this job. This job shouldn't exist. Why? And when the CEO of United Healthcare got shot later that fall, I was kind of surprised that it took so long. We have a giant private healthcare system that does nothing but suck up money and deny people healthcare, and we could do better.
Thank you. Trina?
Yes, I support universal health care. I think there are real changes that we can make rather quickly, though, once we take over the House. And we can start negotiating for lower drug prices. You know, that was something that President Trump promised, and so did Pete Stauber, and then as soon as they all got into office, they did none of it. Or they cherry-picked a few drugs to say that they did it and they cared. And when you look at these foreign countries, these other countries that offer the same exact drug at a fraction of the price of what Americans are paying, we have a real problem. And that's lobbyists, and that's greedy corporations. And so we as politicians need to stand up to that and actually bring them to the table and negotiate these prices down. And have these drugs available when people need them. So I'm watching family members right now that are struggling, that are on Medicare, and they can't take the drugs that their doctors are recommending because they can't afford them. That's a problem. If they lived in another first world country, they'd have those drugs. And it makes me angry and quite honestly worried for people that are very near and dear in my life. And so that would be the number one thing. And then bringing the subsidies back for those on Obamacare. It's not the greatest system, right? I think when it was passed, nobody agreed that it was the greatest system, but it was something, and it was a huge accomplishment by the Democrats. And for Pete Stauber to now go on the record and say that the Democrats voted to sunset them is nonsense. We all know that laws are passed with a definite amount of time in these instances so that they can get them across the table and get bipartisan support. And so they did that to have these subsidies go on for another few years, hoping that we could come to an agreement where we could actually move the system into a better one. And now he sits and spews lies that it's the Democrats' fault that these subsidies ended. So we need to have a real conversation about the health care in this country, how we want to take care of our citizens and our neighbors, and come to a solution that makes it affordable for everybody.
Thank you, JP. Next question. is from a person who wanted to stay anonymous, but they're from Gwinnett Township. And I kind of condensed this question because they had a really long version. But basically, what will your campaign messaging be to address the highly controversial allegations of fraud in Minnesota?
First of all, the fraud is at the state level. I'd be running at the federal level, so I won't have direct authority over it. I think that our Democrats in office are doing the best they can. I think that there has been a push in the past several decades to privatize government, to take government functions away from civil servants and give award contracts to private for-profit companies to provide services for the people. And this has been spearheaded first and foremost by the Republican Party. So I think that it's kind of rich coming from the Republican Party that they are then decrying these same for-profit companies for defrauding the state. That is their point. If we did not want companies to make a profit off of serving the community, then we should have just had the state do it to begin with. So they create a problem and then decry the Democrats for trying to work within the system they created. The fraud is a problem, but it's a problem the Republicans created themselves.
Thank you. Trina.
So first, I think any fraud is bad, right? Any waste of the government or the taxpayer dollar is bad. We all work hard. When we give over our taxpayer dollars, we expect it to be used wisely. In my 25-year career with the federal government, I held many leadership positions where I had to be a good steward of money. I had to know where it was going, how much we were spending, and why. And so I will continue to use those skills in the position as your representative, knowing where that money is going, why it's being spent, and ensure it's being done wisely. However, we do need to look at what this administration has done to dismantle checks and balances. So we've gotten rid of ombudsmen's offices. We've gotten rid of positions that are specifically there to root out fraud, where people can go and report fraud, waste, and abuse. The hotlines you can call as a federal employee to say, I think something is wrong here. Those are gone. So we need to bring back accountability in our government, and that starts with the federal government. And I will help do that to ensure that these people are in their positions to ensure that we don't have fraud. And look, there's bad actors everywhere. We all know that. There's people that commit crimes, that do bad things. We have a justice system that takes care of that. And Minnesota has been doing that. Since 2022, they have been filing charges and prosecuting folks for fraud, and they continue to do so. So it's a very convenient talking point for the Republican Party now to throw all this negative attention on Minnesota when this fraud has been, they've been going after this fraud now for years and trying to root it out and putting institutions and people in place to prevent it moving forward. So I will continue to do that on the federal level, bring back those positions and those offices, ensure there are checks and balances, and that we listen to whistleblowers and people that are raising their concerns instead of bullying them and getting them to shut up depending on the party they belong to.
Thank you. Debra. I can repeat the question, that's okay. What will your campaign messaging be to address the highly controversial allegations of fraud in Minnesota?
What is the root cause? Is it greed? Is it power? Is it just more money? Is it just a lie? To steal? Because each one of us teaches our children and our grandchildren, etc., right? To be the best they can. So the campaign would be to reverse that, right? To be nice that you can. The campaign to teach, to remind us to be able to not do that, right? Because if it's okay for one person, then it's okay for me. But we need to stop that. So the message, I feel, would be to make sure that we are able to go over all of these budgets. I recall a budget just automatically getting a 10% raise. I thought, wow, just automatic, gee whiz, wow. That's uncalled for. There should be nobody. We need to prove that we need to have this much more money, right? So, thank you.
Thank you, Emanuel.
I think it's pretty clear that we live in the age of the fraudster, sadly. The person in the White House, Donald Trump, is one of the biggest fraudsters that's the U.S. has ever had. And this issue is something that everyone's dealing with, Republicans and Democrats. When I went down for a campaign event in Duluth, I downloaded the wrong parking app, and I had to cancel my debit card, because it was a scam. But when it comes to Democrats and Republicans in office on the federal level, while I have a lot of disagreements with a lot of Democrats, one of the biggest differences is that the Democrats are gonna get the job done. They're gonna do the hard work, they're gonna address the fraud, and I can say pretty confidently, we won't see the same kind of fraud happen in Minnesota for a long time. The Republicans can't even successfully get their name out of the Epstein files. So.
Thank you, Kyle.
So the question was about campaign messaging, and one, I think this fraud question is just the political flavor of the day. It's what Republicans think they can go after and try to attack a generous system, a system that is based on Minnesotan values. And we keep on hearing this message from the Republican Party that America is a zero-sum game, that if one group is gaining something, the other group is losing something. And all we need to do is look back at our communities and how our communities are working together on things like public schooling, and when people have access to education, when people have access to healthcare, when people have access to childcare, life becomes more than just about surviving. It becomes about building, it becomes about community and growing together. So the campaign messaging is all of that, but it's also just demonstrating my own life story. Like I said at the beginning, I grew up in a family that relied on programs such as Social Security, disability, supplemental nutrition assistance, and it didn't make me dependent, it made me possible, and those programs are important. And, you know, also, it made me want to pay my country back, because I saw the benefit of these things. So at 17, I enlisted in the Army National Guard. I went on to build a career. But the thing that I also understand is not everybody has the privileges and the opportunities that I have. I'm not sitting here saying that everybody needs to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. I understand that communities are complex, people have needs. And so we need to go after the people that abuse these programs, that prevent the people from getting the need that they want. A policy position on that could be increasing people's opportunities to be whistleblowers and sue on behalf of the government when there's fraud.
Thank you. And we'll start with Trina for the next question. So we'll have one more question, and then after that, you'll get to do a conclusion statement. So this last question is from Matthew Hudson from Wyoming. What are your plans and ideas to make Minnesotans' lives more affordable?
That's a great question. I think we've already talked about a few pieces of that. And affordability boils down to our economy being healthy, but being healthy for everyone. being healthy for that middle class, for the folks that are striving for the middle class, and not just the 1%. So it needs to start with people being in Congress that actually understand the people that they're representing, your daily plight, your life, how things are affordable or aren't affordable, and how to fix that. So affordability starts with understanding it and then striving to make changes to have affordability trickle down to everybody and not just those lucky 1%, not just those in Congress. So I think we have to start first with getting rid of the tariffs. The tariffs are doing nothing to benefit all of us. It's benefiting the rich, it's benefiting the administration and all of his cronies. So immediately taking action in Congress to get rid of those tariffs. And then just looking at the medical prices again, the healthcare prices, making that affordable. So you're not making a choice between putting food on the table or affording your prescription drugs for that given month. So ensuring people can afford that and insure their premiums. And then again, it triggers my argument on education, right? Being able to have your children have a better life than you had. I think that's what every parent strives for. So ensuring that we have an education system where folks can afford to go after their dreams, get the education that they need to then enter that labor market and have a good paying job, so that the next generation is not struggling like we are right now. So it really is going to take a many-pronged approach to fix everything that's been torn down by this administration, quite honestly. But we can do it, and it starts with a representative that's going to listen to you and your needs and then fight for those.
Thank you, Debra.
Asking you, but I want to make sure that everybody else remembers the question as well.
Okay, I can do that. Let's see. What are your plans and ideas to make Minnesotans' lives more affordable?
I believe in cooperatives. I believe in solar, in wind, but I also believe in affordable housing. How can, so what makes everything affordable, right? Because at one point in time, I was working an elder advocate and my honey was working good, and what was affordable then compared to what is affordable now are two different things. So I have learned to live with less. I've learned to, instead of paying $8 for eggs, I've learned to become a chicken farmer. So there, you know, there's always things to learn, and that's what it is. If you have extra money in your pocket for not having to pay an electric bill, can you imagine what you could do with your life? You know, so I believe every household deserves to have solar and wind available to them.
Emanuel.
Thank you. So it all goes back to the policies that I'm going to fight for. So first, not just about lowering costs, we can eliminate them. So for those out there listening who don't know what Medicare for All is, that means healthcare is free, you don't pay. Same with universal college, the cost is covered. So that's going to make life cheaper. I also want us to make more, which is why I support a $20 an hour average minimum wage across the country. Yeah, that's about all there is to it.
Thank you, Emanuel.
So the question is about how to make Minnesotans' lives more affordable. And one thing that I started from the beginning of my campaign is being as transparent, as direct, and specific on my policy positions as possible. So I lay out on my website, www.cyleforcongress.com, a platform position on affordability. And it's both about putting more in your pocket, getting more for your work, and about paying less at the checkout. And there's several ways to do this. One, companies are spending billions, hundreds of millions on things like acquisitions, stock buybacks. It seems like every day in the news you hear about another company buying another company, and all of that is anti-competitive behavior that well over a century ago this country used to fight against. We used to be a trust-busting country, and those anti-competitive behaviors are what leads to increased prices. And so a specific policy position is targeted penalties on companies that raise their prices above inflationary costs when there's no real cost to the company that's creating that. If a company is just arbitrarily raising their prices so they can buy off another company, buy back more of their stocks, and reward wealth for wealth's sake, there needs to be a penalty for that. We need to, at every spectrum, for small businesses to large businesses, ensure that there's a living wage being paid. Multi-billion-dollar companies shouldn't have their employees relying on systems, government essentially coming in and helping these billion-dollar companies. It's corporate welfare. We need to end that. And providing grants and access to funds so small businesses can also offer competitive wages and benefits.
Thank you.
So my sister recently gave birth to a beautiful young girl, and while my sister makes a lot more money than me, she's struggling to pay for daycare. And I think that we should have universal-free daycare for every family in Minnesota. If we can afford anything that we could do, we can afford to do. We had universal daycare in World War II to help out with the war effort. But for some reason, we just decide that we can't do these things anymore. We can't afford a social safety net, and that's not true. The easiest way to seem serious in Congress is to talk about the deficit and the debt and scold people for being needy, for needing health care, for needing food, for needing daycare. And I say to hell with all of that. We can afford it. Anything we could do, we can afford to do. Money is not a finite resource. We can pay for things. We are rich, and we should pay for it.
Thank you. For our conclusion, we'll start with Debra, and you can just pass the mic down so it'll be a little smoother, and just give a kind of a summary conclusion statement.
How long can this be?
2 minutes.
That's it.
But you don't have to take the whole 2 minutes.
I'm kidding. My conclusion is that we all need to make sure that we are protecting what is ours. We have our water, we have our land, we have our et cetera, and that's what I will be able to bring to Congress when you vote me in.
Thank you.
I just want to start by thanking all of you again for being here today and listening to all of us. It really is heartening to see all of you out here and engaged, and it gives me real hope that we are going to win back District 8 in November. I'm going to be the representative that you've been wanting, the one that shows up, the one that has town halls, the one that listens to you. I think we're at a critical point in our country where we have to take a look at who we want to be moving forward. Do we want to be the country where we care for our neighbors, where we shovel their driveways, where we want everyone to be lifted up and have a better life? Because it is true, when one of us does better, we all do better. And we've gotten away from that message, and we're to a point where we can't engage anymore. And so I ask all of you to please start engaging. We need to engage our neighbors. We need to have the tough conversations. And it is frustrating, right? I've asked somebody, please explain to me how you support him and why, in a rational manner. And it's tough. I don't understand it personally, but we have to have these conversations. And even if you just sway one person on a Friday night at your local watering hole to see things from our perspective and think maybe that wasn't the right move by this administration, or maybe what's happening is really deeply hurting my neighbor who I actually care about even though they're a Democrat, then that's a win. We need to get back to that. I've spent my entire career bringing people from both sides of the aisle and representing both sides, really. No matter who was the president until now, you worked hard and you did your job and you cared about it and giving back to the American people. And that's what I want to bring to this office. I am going to be the representative for everyone, and I need all of you to help me do that by having these conversations and for us to go back to a place where we can converse and do what's best for the greatest number of people.
Thank you.
Earlier this evening, a bunch of people came up and encouraged people to run for office. I'd just like to go and second that and say that I never thought about running for office, but now that I've done it, it's been the most rewarding experience of my life. And I just want to thank you guys for inviting me out here and giving me a chance to talk about America and talk about my vision for the future. And so, thank you.
So one of the most important things about myself and my campaign is showing up, being there, listening, unlike somebody else, somebody seeking a 5th term to Congress who can't take a direct question from somebody in their district. I can do that. We've done this tonight. All 5 of us have done that tonight, and to show up. And that's why I'm running. It's a continuation of a life of service. As I said, I wanted to pay my country back. So at 17, I joined the Army National Guard. I used the GI Bill to go to college. After that, I wanted to continue a life of service. So I worked through law school, and now I represent workers against billion-dollar corporations. I've gone toe-to-toe with billion-dollar corporations. I know how the system is rigged, and I know how to win. And just above all else, I ask everybody in this room to support somebody sitting at this table, to donate, to volunteer. And the more you volunteer, the more you get engaged, the easier it is. I found that out because here, I'm sitting here after 13 years of starting political activity. I'm now running for an office. And you can become engaged by reaching out to any of the candidates. I have sign-up sheets on a table back there, just providing your phone number, your email, and just being able to connect with people in our district is really important and valuable for me to launch a campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. This is not an endorsement, but I think you're a very good person, and thank you for saying that. So on the way down here, I had plenty of anxiety about the whole speech giving thing and remembering it all. And I actually didn't quite get to finish the introduction part, so I'll pick up where I left off. I agree that getting rid of our current representative is of utmost importance. But who replaces them and what that person vows to represent is just as important. And I'd be honored if each and every one of you trusted me to be this person. Thank you.
Thank you. Hand it back to Dan, and why don't we give another round of applause.
Well, great. Well, no, it's okay. You can turn that off. Didn't Linda do a great job? Thank you so much. Thank you. That's fantastic. So, and then the last thing I'll just remind you is the straw poll. Please tear off the person that you are willing to work for. All right, of these candidates, which one will you support? Are you willing to put some time and effort into? Now, we're gonna take a 5-minute break so these guys can use the restroom and stuff, and then they're gonna go to the corner where their name is, and you can ask one-on-one questions, you can do a follow-up or ask something new, okay? So, thank you so much for coming out tonight, really appreciate it, just drop the thing on the way out.
Debra's in the middle.
Oh, and Debra is in the middle, right, thank you. Debra's in the middle. Thank you, everybody, thanks for coming out.